shootout that left a Chicago grandmother dead. We've learned a security guard who sources say fired the shot that killed Bobby Johnson barely had any training. CBS 2's Jackie Kostek is live outside Chicago Police headquarters. Jackie, you talked to that security guard's boss.
Yeah, Erica, I did. And the owner of that company tells me the security guard involved in that shooting had just been hired and had only worked about 10 shifts. I spoke to the owner of Bounty Tac Force, who confirmed that his employee was the security guard working outside of Woods Food and Liquor on 35th and Indiana. He was on duty when a man opened fire, and a shot fired by Brown struck 55-year-old Bobby Johnson in the chest, killing her. A police source says the incident started with an argument between Brown and a man outside of that liquor store on Monday. Police say that man returned on Tuesday. He and Brown got into another argument, and the man shot Brown once in the leg. As the man ran away east on 35th Street, the police report says Brown shot in his direction.
He was just laying there on the ground and just shooting down the block.
A witness spoke to CBS 2 Tuesday, describing Brown's shooting as reckless.
He could have shot anybody came out of either one of them stores down there, how he was shooting his gun. He could have hit anybody.
The 34-year-old Brown has an extensive criminal history dating back to 2005, involving armed robbery and domestic battery. The owner of the security company said he did do a background check, but did not know that Brown had a record. The owner said Brown came in with standard 20 and 40-hour security training certificates. Yeah, the owner of that company says that he doesn't know if Brown is still in the hospital right now. We do know that police are still searching for the man who fired that first shot. And just to give you a little perspective of where we are right now, we're standing right outside of CPD headquarters on 35th and Michigan. And you can actually see that liquor store just about a block away on the north side of Indiana. Brad and Erica, back to you.
Jackie, thank you.
So for the record, none of us security training companies teach people to shoot at people running away. Yeah, that was really reckless. First of all, as a security officer, you're not the police. You're only security, okay? You're not 12, you're 6. So bring your force down, divide that in half. Understand that, number one, that gun stays in your holster only so that you can make money. You know, when I teach my unarmed and armed security officers in these courses, I know that I teach that it is prevention. That's your first responsibility. And then second responsibility is to observe and report. It does not change when you have a gun on your side. The mantra is, what would I do if I had no gun to use? Would I stick out my chest if I wasn't wearing a vest? I'll say it again. What would I do if I had no gun to use? Would I stick out my chest if I wasn't wearing a vest? Let that be your mantra. Right? And so from 35th in Indiana, the north side of the street, all the way to 35th and King Drive, the south side of eastbound 35th Street, that's a long distance. Not too long of a distance, but long enough of a distance. And for your bullet to have crossed that way and then hit Bobby Johnson is inexcusable. There is no excuse. Now, in context, yes, okay? A forcible felony was committed upon him. He was shot in the leg, okay? And the law does authorize you to use force to stop a forcible felony that is about to happen or has happened within like milliseconds, and you got the opportunity to do that. You see what I'm saying? But certain context gives provisions where you're able to do that. That was not one of those situations. And then it has it, or the story has it, the situation has it, where you've unloaded your firearm, so to speak, by discharging it multiple times until it was out of rounds. And then you took the magazine out, reloaded the firearm, and then kept on shooting. That is absolutely inexcusable. In no way, shape, form, or fashion should any security training instructor, whether it be in Chicago or any place else, would we ever say that this is the thing to do. This is absolutely horrible. But here's another thing too. You know I see it in my classes, and I'm sure other security instructors see it in their classes if they are training the right way. Okay. And that's another thing, too. Nothing to say anything about the other academies. I know that the top 4 academies, Security Training Center, Security Training Concepts, PTC Security Training Academy, and AGB, these are the top 4 Not my information, right? You can Google it. It's open source information, right? But if you Google it, I know, having been to security training center and knowing the owners of AGB and PTC, that we would never teach people to do something like that, okay? First of all, that gun is to stay in your holster only to make money. Never be afraid to get fired from your security company, to tell that security company owner and the property owner where you are working armed security no. Because here's this. Sometimes the owners will entice the security officers to do too much that could convince them to go out there and provide an extra threat or an extra set of protection or an extra deterring effect to enforce the rules, the order, and the decorum for that particular property. Make no mistake about it. You don't own anything on that property. I don't care whether it's from the smallest valued property to the largest valued property. You don't own anything in there. Your duty is to prevent a crime from occurring by visual deterrence and using verbal judo, which is a method of using time and carefully chosen words to defuse a situation. You are not to be the aggressor. Now, I understand that your presence could be seen as slightly aggressive. That is a matter of context and perspective on the other person, but you are not to continue in that. And that's not to say that Victor Brown continued in this, okay? Because there is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. There are factors in this circumstance that we don't know. Regardless, okay? Arguments, don't get into them. It's not worth your life, right? It is many of them and one of you. You don't live in that community. You work in that community. You don't live in that community. You work in that community. And even if you live in that community, look, you are there for a visual deterrence. If your visual deterrence doesn't work, you are there to observe and report, okay? Your life matters. Your life matters. And the lives of other people, they matter too. But your life matters. You see what happened in that given situation? There was an argument, and the man came back the next day to argue with the security officer, and he did not care. Apparently, he didn't care. He came there with the intention, I will argue, that he came there with the intention to actually shoot that security officer, Victor Brown. And what happened? He reacted under stress and recklessly discharged his firearm. Here's an update as to where the case is now.
Good morning, Ryan and Audrina. We do know that 34-year-old Victor Brown charged with not only first-degree murder, but unlawful use of a weapon. We reported last night that this security guard was being held for questioning, and then within the last hour, police announced those charges. Now, police say this all started with an argument between a man and the security guard, and that eventually led to a shootout. They say that this man, who they're still looking for, shot the security guard, Victor Brown, in the leg outside of Woods Food and Liquor Store. Now, witnesses tell us the security guard, who again we know as Victor Brown, was, quote, laying on the ground shooting down the block as the man ran away. One of those bullets struck 55-year-old Bobby Johnson as she was leaving the bank. She was a grandmother, she was a beloved choir singer, and people who knew her best say mourning will take time.
Just did not deserve to die in the streets of Chicago. So brazen that you know, that's the police headquarters. And so is there any regard of authority, any regard of life?
And just for some context, that happened about a block away from here, from where we're standing here outside of Chicago Police Headquarters. Funeral arrangements are still being made for Bobby Johnson. And as for that man who shot the security guard in the leg, well, police say they're still looking for him. Reporting live from Chicago Police Headquarters, Marissa Parra, CBS 2 News.
Marissa, thank you.
I'm looking at information in the media, and it says Brown and the gunman had previously got into an argument Monday outside of Woods Food and Liquor on the block, according to police. Cook County records show that Brown has been arrested at least 10 times for illegal gun possession, battery, domestic battery, and armed robbery. Most of the cases were dropped, but he pled guilty to domestic battery in 2015 and armed robbery without a firearm in 2010. And he was given 100 days in Cook County Jail on the first case and 6 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections on the other. So that means that by all accounts, if it still holds up, which I'm almost certain it does, with my understanding on the laws of sealing and expungement, that he does not have an FOID card. Now, he is doing bond court today, and I'm going to make sure that I listen because I want to listen to the bond proffer, okay? But how was he hired as a security officer without having his FOID card? Yeah, I had to catch that, sorry. How was he hired as a security officer without having his FOID card? You got to have that in order to be able to work as an armed security officer, in order to be able to possess a gun in the state of Illinois. You have to have a firearm owner's identification card. That company is in trouble. That company is in trouble. Bounty Task Force is in trouble. For you to hire someone, because now it's the but not for argument, but not for you hiring this person who was not supposed to be hired and working in that capacity as an armed security officer, but not for you hiring this person. It is more likely than not that my client, within the context of that situation, would still be alive today. More to come after this.